Today we're going to be looking at how you can ensure service continuity and resilience in lockdown and beyond. So I'm very lucky today because we've got a full house of really good experts. So I'm Dan Creasy on the left. I'm from Panasonic Toughbook. And then we've got Alex, Steve and Joe. So I'm just going to unmute you guys. So if we start with Alex, do you want to do a little intro about yourself?
Yep. Hello, I'm Alex Croston. I've been with Yotta for 10 or 11 years now. I think I'm approaching 11. And I head up pre-sales at Yotta, so I do a lot of product demonstrations. And today I'm going to be talking you through Alloy and how that can help you to sort of maintain resilience through your service throughout the pandemic we're currently experiencing and beyond.
Perfect. Cheers, Alex. And Steve?
Yeah, good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Steve White, so Head of Transformation at Yotta. Been with us for about 4 years. I guess my background's always been in sort of trying to provide innovative software solutions to help public sector organisations improve service delivery. So looking forward to with you.
Perfect. Cheers, Steve. And then finally, someone I know well, Joe. Are you there? Can you hear us, Joe?
Yeah. Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. Yep. My name is Joe Powell. I'm one of the account managers in the Panasonic Toughbook UK team, predominantly looking after government customers and again within that local government customers. Been doing a lot of work over the last 9 months with Steve and some of the other guys at Yotta. Within that, we've been able to set up a hardware and software partnership that we'll go into a little bit more detail about today.
Perfect. Cool. I'll stick you back on mute, Joe. So let's just quickly skip to the agenda. So basically, the guys are going to explain who Yotta are a bit and some of the challenges that are faced by local authorities at the moment. And then a lot of today's going to be looking at a demo of the Alloy software. That's the best way to see things instead of boring slides, isn't it? And then I'll just recap with a little bit on how Yotta and Panasonic can work together, and then a Q&A. So talking of the Q&A, we've got the chat and we've got the Q&A functions within WebEx. So please feel free to ask questions as we go along. Depending how we're doing on time, I might ask them as we're going, or I'll save them up to the end. But please do chuck them in either of those, and I will ask the guys. So without further ado, I'll pass over control. Who was going first? Was it Alex or Steve? I can't remember.
It was Steve.
Okay. Control is coming your way, Steve.
Perfect. Thank you. So,
go mad with the power.
That's it. That's in my screen. Can everyone see that?
Yeah, we got it.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Dan. And I think it's safe to say, really, that we've witnessed a greater awareness of local authority frontline services down than ever before. Now, that might be due to actually being home when your bins are collected. Perhaps your children or those in the neighbourhood are posting notes of thanks to the waste collection crews. Perhaps you're needing to make more use of public bins when you're taking your dog for a walk. Or perhaps you're taking the opportunity to finally get round to reporting that pothole or overgrown tree just outside your house to your local authority, or you're trying to manage those services as residents do that. But I think certainly in terms of the challenges that local authorities have faced, I think they're certainly significant in many areas of public realm service delivery. Obviously, through the early weeks of the crisis, when decisions had to be made about what services to stop, or indeed, how critical ones could actually continue in some form, that presented major challenges. Or perhaps more so now in the current slightly more stable pattern, where councils have needed to take account of social distancing and the safety of their own staff and the public, and look to restart services in different forms as well. There's been challenges around that. And also looking ahead to the longer term recovery, recognising the need to create more flexible and efficient operations. I think certainly as we work with over 200 local authorities across the UK and internationally, we've been able to experience something at close hand of the impact that the COVID-19 pandemic has had on local authorities. And we'll also be continuing to work with them in the longer term recovery process as well. And some of the key themes that we're seeing come out of this emerging include the need for online provision of systems so that staff can easily access them from home or indeed anywhere. No doubt some will have been making use of their gardens and accessing their software if they are online while the sun has been shining. But also beyond online, and looking at and considering having the same user interface and design. As many councils have had to shift staff between different service areas and will continue to need to do that. The ability to work with a familiar application, even if the work they're doing is different to what they would have ordinarily been doing. That's key, and we're sort of seeing that message come back time and time again from our customers. Mobile working is another big theme that's been coming out of this time we've been through. In order to minimise the time that staff spend in depots, or the ability to access the relevant information quickly whilst in the field is key. As well, the ability to fully integrate often with public-facing, citizen-facing systems such as websites and apps in order to keep the public informed about changes to services, about those service requests that they're submitting, about managing expectations with the public is more important than ever. And fifthly, I think the other key theme we're seeing through this is flexibility and that ability to cope with changes in the way that assets and services are managed, both in the short term, as we've faced this situation, but also in planning for the future as well, and building in that resilience to our services. So, as Dan was saying, in a moment, Alex is going to take us through how Alloy is enabling our customers to do just that. Alloy is hosted and accessible from any modern web browser. It's being used across a wide range of public realm services, from highways and lighting to green spaces and trees to cleansing and waste collection. Alloy Mobile and in-cab give the operatives and the crews the information they need at their fingertips out in the field. Alloy has open APIs that any data in the system is available for integration, enabling that online transaction with the public. And also Alloy allows you to design and manage any asset and activity as well. So we believe that Alloy is going to enable local authorities to adapt and respond faster and in a more coherent manner to the changing demands of service delivery as we transition out of lockdown and as we navigate this unfolding landscape before us in the coming years ahead. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Alex.
Thanks for the introduction, Steve. I'm now going to take everyone through a kind of whirlwind tour of what's possible with Alloy and how it can help, maintain service continuity during these difficult times and resilience, and get us through this period and also prepare us for the future. So to start with, as Steve mentioned, it's a web-based application, so you just need a web address and a modern browser and you're away. And then you're going to log into the system, and you've got a range of ways of doing that. So if you want to just do email and password, you can, but you've also got the facility to use single sign-on as well. So I use my Microsoft credentials. You can see here I've got this kind of landing page with a wide range of systems that I can log into. Most local authorities would just go straight into their own system, but if you are working on multiple contracts, you might end up with some sort of similar landing page where you can sort of access each individual contract and work through what you need to work through. So we've come into the system now, and I'm going to give you a quick orientation of what you can see, and then we'll start working through some examples of how we can help. So to start with, you've got a map in the center, nice large map in the center, and the interaction with that map you will already know and understand. So drag and pan around, roll the mouse wheel to zoom in. If it's on a touchscreen device, you can pinch zoom, you can swipe with your finger. So, the interactions are already understood. You can already start using this piece of software. The left-hand side has all of these dashboard cards presented, and they give you summary statistics about the performance of your assets and your services. And these statistics update as things change. On top of that, you can actually create your own dashboard cards. So you can sort of set the system up so that it's giving you the information that you need to understand your asset and service performance and manage it in an optimal way. You know, it's information at your fingertips, essentially. And these cards sort of serve a dual purpose. Not only are they giving you these dashboard stats, but behind them you can actually set up functions. So if we come into the activities card, from here we can create defects, inspections and jobs. We can look at team management, project management, assigning tasks, team pricing, and so on and so forth. So, you know, these are almost kind of little module cards that you can configure within the system to give you information and carry out functions. The right-hand side of the screen, this is all far more to do with viewing your assets, your services, and your management information in more detail, and also understanding the environment within which your assets and services are operating. So if we start with that point, the environment, if we look at base maps, within Alloy, you can pull in a huge range of base maps because we use web mapping services. So, you know, all you need is the web address to a specific base map, and you can pull that base map in. I've got quite a range in here, but this isn't exhaustive, what I'm showing you now. So, you know, I've got satellite imagery, I've got a Google base map, OpenStreetMaps, we've got sort of simpler base maps as well that we can bring in. That one's a bit. So this is sort of Skyward base map, or, you know, back to the base map I was using before. So you've got a range of base maps that you can pull in to give different context to your assets and your services. And then if you actually want to interact with your spatial information, whether that be about your assets, your services, or management of those, you just come to the layers icon here. And what I'll do is I'll just give you a quick flavor of the types of assets and services that we can manage within the system. So I'll turn on carriageways. Maybe we can turn on some car parks, commercial property, grounds assets, arboreal assets, gullies, highway assets, road signs, street lighting, traffic signals. Just to give you a kind of flavor of the flexibility of Alloy. Again, you know, that list of assets that I've turned on is by no means exhaustive. We built the system to be incredibly flexible. You know, it works on the fundamental principles of asset management and service delivery to give you a flexible framework to, you know, create and manage a whole wealth of things within the system. And we'll cover off how that all works a little bit later. Now, I'd love to talk to you about all of this stuff, but given the time and the focus of this presentation, I'll turn off a few of these layers and we'll just focus on the grounds, cleansing, waste, and arboreal elements. So put some of these off. There we go. And, you know, I've just shown you a range of asset and service types. And actually, as I say, it wasn't exhaustive because I haven't shown you an example of waste yet. But what's also quite nice is that we can visualize our asset and service information in lots of different ways. You can visualize it based on any information that you hold in the system, essentially. So currently we've got these arboreal assets just represented as a green icon with a tree. But perhaps I want to view my arboreal assets in a slightly different way. Maybe I want to view it by tree maturity. And you can see I've turned that layer on now, and I've got all these different styles here. And it's all dynamic. So if I want to turn off some styles, I can just turn them off and the map updates. So you've got this kind of spatial filtering within the system as well. And this works in tandem with great spatial selection tools. So I can sort of draw polygons around things that I'm interested in, and then maybe open the list view of those and create some actions against them, whether that be, you know, creating jobs, inspections, and so on and so forth. So you've got a really sort of flexible and interactive system that you can play with here. Let's say we want to see the trees in a different way, so based on physiological condition. Again, this is information we hold against the assets, so we can display it. And again, this stuff is dynamic, so you can turn styles on and off and then interact with them. So the beauty of this is you can create as many of these views as you like within Alloy. So, you know, you can really ensure that you've got these views available to you to help you understand your asset performance and service performance. And the other thing to point out about these layers is they're dynamic. They actually update when things change. So if we did another assessment of our assets and, you know, a few more were identified as having a poor physiological condition, as that information is captured and updated, these layers, this particular layer could actually update to reflect that. So, you know, it's all about providing information promptly to you so that you understand what's happening, make informed decisions about how to manage things. So we've looked at kind of layers of information and lots of different assets and services. If you want to actually understand more about a specific asset or service type, you can just select on it. And then this right-hand information panel appears and you can see all the attribute information associated with it. So the description, it's a grassed area, it's got an expenditure code linked to it and so on. We can also very easily from this area access all of the history of the asset, any sort of open defects, inspections and jobs, and also create new defects, inspections and jobs from this location as well. So let's go to the defects area. You can see here we've got a reported service request for overgrown grass, and we've got a remedied service request for a dead animal that's been found in the area. So we can look at this one and see what happened. So we've got the location appearing in the map. You can see all the information associated with that. And because it's remedied, there'll be a job that was carried out to actually rectify this. So we can link to jobs. And here's the job information that was carried out. And if there are any photographs or anything taken, I'm sure you want to, but if you had any of that sort of evidence, that can all be sort of attached to any of the sort of data items that you're interacting with. Now, if I want to get back from this job to the asset, I just simply go to Parents and I can select the asset. But you'll also notice I can select the defect. So this job has two parents. And we use parent-child relationships throughout Alloy to allow us to easily link information together and easily sort of navigate between different data items. And you'll see more and more of that as we go through this. So I'm not going to go back to the defect or the service request. I'm going to go back to the asset itself. And it's that simple to do. So let's have a look at another asset. We've got an arboreal asset here. We've got an image that's presented, all the attribute information again on this right-hand interactive menu. And again, if I want to look at any of the inspection, defect or job history, it's really easy to do. There we go. So we've got a couple of tree health surveys here. You can see when they were completed and so on. Select one of those and see the information. And again, I can just hook back to the asset through the parent-child relationship. What we can also do with any asset is componentize it into parts. So sort of link it to other asset components. And you might wonder why you do that with a tree. But you know, you might have bat boxes on the tree or bird boxes, sensors or you know, tree preservation orders. So, you know, it's really easy with an Alloy to actually create these component relationships and give you more sort of dexterity to manage your asset information, your service information. And if I want to see specifically, you know, the information associated with this particular bat box, I can just click on it and it brings up that information. You can see the image of it as well. And then we can get back to the tree. I could do the same with the bird box, the tree lean sensor, and the TPO, tree preservation order. Again, that's just attached to the tree. Now, obviously, I've shown you some parent-child relationships there. We've got the tree, and then these components are also children of the tree. But the tree itself can be the child of something else. So the tree is in Jefferson Gardens, which is a park. So if I go to parents from the tree, I can jump up to Jefferson Gardens. And you can see there's actually 35 assets that are linked to Jefferson Gardens. So that would be grass areas, trees, flower beds, and so on and so forth. So this use of parent-child relationships allows us to build a range of systems within Alloy, you know, across multiple service areas that can reflect the complexity of the real world. And I hope as we go through this, you know, I show you different examples of this, that will become sort of more apparent. So how do we actually manage so many different assets and services within one system? Well, the answer lies in what we call the designer module. And designer, in its simplest sense, allows you to create any asset that you want, define all the attributes that you want to record against those assets, you know, so what information do you want to hold, componentize those assets. So, you know, how would you want to break that asset into parts and sort of link it together? What would be the structure, the relationship between those components? But then it goes beyond that. It allows you to define all the defects you might want to record for specific asset types. what attributes again you want to record as part of that when you're logging the defect, what inspections you want to carry out, the questions you want to ask, the information you want to capture, and jobs. You know, what attributes again do you want to record as you're carrying that stuff out. And on top of that flexibility that Designer brings, we've also got a huge range of pre-configured designs, what we call blueprints within the system. And these are created by our subject matter experts in the consultancy team, and they have expertise across a wide range of service areas. So, you know, the ones we're going to look at today, like waste, cleansing, grounds and arboreal, you know, they created a lot of blueprints for those service areas. But going beyond that, you know, highway, street lighting, et cetera, we've got a lot of expertise within the business for all these service areas to build these kind of exemplar blueprint designs that mean that if you took Alloy on, they can be deployed as part of the implementation to, you know, get you up and running. Or if, you know, after a few years of running a couple of service areas in Alloy, you decide to expand into a new service area, we can flick a few switches and turn those blueprints on for you, so that you've got access to, you know, what we view as the kind of exemplar way of managing a particular service area. And, you know, it just saves you, I suppose, having to reinvent the wheel. So let's go and have a look at a couple of designs. I'll look at trees design first, because we've looked at some trees. So if we open this out, these are all the attributes that you could record against any tree that you plotted. So think of a design as a sort of template. It allows you to sort of record certain information that you want to record against a specific asset, defect, inspection, job, and so on. So you can see all of these attributes here, and then we've also got links to sort of lookup tables. So, you know, a lookup table to allow us to identify the species, the height, life stage, physiological condition, and so on and so forth. And if you wanted to add new attributes to this existing design, you can just select add attribute, and then you've got all these options that you can use to actually configure the design of the template to allow people to collect more information for you. I'm not actually going to do that with a tree design. I'm going to go to another design, and we're going to add in a couple of new attributes. So we'll find the design for a bench. And you can see here the bench has far fewer attributes than the tree. Let's say I want to record more information about my benches. I actually want to know if there's a plaque on the benches and what the inscription on that plaque would be. To add those extra attribute options in, as I sort of showed before, I go add attribute, and then I just pick one of these options. So I'd use maybe a yes, no for plaque present. I can make it mandatory if I like or not. You can put in sort of defaults. You've got lots and lots of options with these attributes to sort of configure them as you would want them to behave. I'll add that in. And then we'll add one more. So it'll be a text one this time and inscription. There you go, create that. So if I go back to the bench design now, or bench template, you can now see that we've got this plaque present attribute and inscription attribute added in to the overall design. Now, it's worth pointing out that for most organizations using Alloy, you'd only have a small core of people that would have the access to this kind of area. This is obviously configuring how the system will work. Most people probably won't need to look at this or interact with it. Most people will just, you know, use the system in a functional way. So let's select a bench now. You can see this is the attribute information that's currently been recorded against this bench. So we've got color, material type, and so on, location. If I edit that now, you can see this new attribute that I've added in, plaque present and inscription. Oh, didn't spell that very well. There we go. Save that, and I've now updated the attribute information against that asset. So it really is that easy to configure the system to manage the assets and services in the way that you want the system to behave. It's not, you know, just about what we think is right, giving that to you and saying you must use the system and bend your processes to the will of the system. You know, there's a lot of flexibility there for the system to fit within your processes and work best for you. So far, what we've looked at is a range of assets and activities within the system, how we can visualize and interact with those assets, and also the flexibility and configurability of the system to align it with your organizational requirements. What I'd now like to move on to is how we can use Alloy to help you with carrying out reactive and planned activities on your assets and services. So we'll start with reacting to events and service requests that might be coming in from the public. And it's, before we sort of go into that, it's worth pointing out that Alloy has been designed as a system to work in a world of connected asset management. We've built it to be very flexible in terms of how it can integrate with other systems. We expect and want Alloy to integrate with a range of systems so that you can have lots of different touch points to get information in about potential issues. So, it could be coming in from a CRM, it could be coming in from a mobile app that the public are using, a web form that they're interacting with, or even sensors. We don't mind where these events or service requests comes from. Alloy's been built to be really flexible to integrate with all these different systems to ensure that you can get as current information about performance as you can get. And then once that information comes into the system, Alloy is able to respond in lots of different ways as well. So it could go into sort of a dynamic inbox view where a manager just reviews it at a certain frequency and then will decide on an appropriate action for that service request or event. It could go into one of these dynamic layers. So, a new service request comes in and you get an exclamation mark appear in the map. You can see there's an issue and you need to somehow respond to it. It could also appear sort of within these dashboard cards with the statistics updating. And also, what we can have within Alloy is workflows listening for stuff coming in. And think about workflows as processes that sort of emulate, refine, and automate your current business processes. You can build out these kind of massive decision trees that will say, in this particular circumstance, I want you to do X. In this particular circumstance, I want you to do Y, and in this one, do Z. It gives you huge flexibility to sort of automatically respond to triggers that are coming into the system. And this is the example I want to show you. I want to show you how a workflow can sort of automate a response through Alloy to a service request. So what we're going to do is we're going to select this grasped area here, and I'm going to add a defect, a service request against this grasped area. Is going to be for somebody essentially finding some needles. And as I say, this could come in from a variety of sources, but I'm just showing you how you can add it actually within the system. So we'll select the defect type. It's a third-party report. Details, so it's reported, service, sharps, needles. There's all the other information that could be recorded as part of that. Defect location, so if someone was using a web form or a CRM, they may be able to actually plot it, or a mobile app even. And then you could actually have report information come into the system as well, if you wanted that. And we've got all this kind of GDPR checks as well. So let's create that. We now go over to the defects tab. You can see that we've got a sharps and needles defect that's been, or service request that's been reported in this grasped area. And I don't know if you just heard my phone buzz there, but if I grab my phone, I've just received a text message from Alloy telling me that there's a sharps and needles service request that's been raised, and here's the link to sort of find it and go and respond to it. So we can send text alerts, email alerts out to people so that they can be jolted into action. If I now in the back office or cloud system select that service request, I can see the information associated with it, and I can also see a job's been created. So I can then link through to that job. And And yeah, you can see the raise time. We've given it a day's target time with the workflow because it's obviously quite a serious thing. You probably want to get to that quite quickly. And the team it's being issued out to, and so on and so forth. So let's have a quick look at the workflow that's driven that. And the great thing about these workflows is they are entirely configurable. You know, you can build them to reflect the business processes that you want your organization to follow. So it's this grounds SR action. And as I said before, you know, it's a bit like a decision tree. Here's the third-party request, and then all these different scenarios or circumstances are assessed, and if one of them is valid, then an action is created, or multiple actions. So let's look at this one. This is the service request equals sharps and needles, so someone's reported that. And then from that, we've created this job. So sharps and needles removal, it's issued out to the field team. They've got a day to do it, and the geometry is taken from the defect report or the service request report. We've also sent out a message, SMS, to my colleague Sang and myself, which is what you've just seen, alerting us that this particular issue has been identified. And then, you know, on each of these nodes, there are different sets of circumstances and different sets of responses that can be defined. And you can make these as big or as small as you like, but they're incredibly powerful. So that's just a really quick example of how you can use Alloy to actually help you react to events and service requests that are sort of happening on your network. Next, I want to look at planned activities. And it's really easy to actually create planned projects within Alloy. I'm going to illustrate that by creating a grass cutting project for you. So let's create job, select assets. I'll use the map picker here, and it's going to bring in all the assets into this view. So what I'm going to do is just filter for grass, which will take out most of the assets, and we've just got the grassed areas left. And then I can just use this nice polygon tool to draw around Jefferson Gardens, the area we were looking at earlier. There you go, it's selected 25 grassed areas. Select done. Job type, so what are we actually going to do? Grass cutting. And then you can put in the job details. So we'll issue this out. And this is the information that we're going to issue out. So this is the stuff that's been designed in the designer. So there's a health and safety checklist that we've designed. You could make your own checklists up. It could be multiple questions, one question, have you reviewed the attached PDF, whatever you want. That's a sort of flexibility of the system. So select done. Assign the job. So you can just send them out as 25 individual jobs, or you can put them into existing projects that bundle them up, or new projects. So we'll do a new one, and we'll give it a name. So Jefferson Gardens grass cutting. There we go. I can choose the team that we're going to push it to, field team B, and I could even push it to an individual member of that team. I select done there. I can also add in work items, so you're kind of componentizing the job into parts. So I could select some of these work items or all of them, and then for each job, they would see the various activities that they need to carry out. And then that's the process. So then you press create 25 jobs. Before I do that, I just want to show you that what you can also do with Alloy is use templates. So let's say I've been through this process and I've created this for Jefferson Gardens, and now I want to create several more projects across my locality. I can save the first project as a template and then just reuse that for all the other projects. And that auto-populates, so I select one of these, that auto-populates all of this information below. So it just speeds up the process of creating this planned maintenance by quite a margin. So I'm going to press create 25 jobs. They're going to get bundled into a project. We'll give that a few seconds to build that. And then once that's happened, you've got other options that you can look at as well. So you can look at scheduling the work, and we've got a few different scheduling options. And if it was sort of a linear-based activity, you could also look at sort of routing the work as well. So let's go into projects. grass cutting project. So you can see sort of dark green now, all the grassed areas that have this grass cutting job against them. See the 25 tasks. And if I went to tasks, you'll just see that they're all listed as open currently. There you go, open 25 tasks. Very quickly, just to sort of touch on schedules a little bit more, if I go create schedule, I can pick a schedule type. So we've got a range of schedules you can do. So it could be a repeat schedule. So at this specific time of every week or month on, you know, a particular day, carry out the work. Ooh. You actually need to populate it, or you get a little error message. Or a frequency-based one. So starting on this particular date at this time, every X number of, you know, hours, days, weeks, months, years, whatever, carry out the task. Equally, you've got this calendar picker here, which gives you far more flexibility. You can do anything with it in defining when work will be scheduled. And you can use this, I suppose, to create sort of seasonality, which would be very important for grass cutting with grounds. The other thing you can do is kind of create global schedules and then link projects to those global schedules as well. So if you've already created a few sort of seasonal schedules and you want to link those to your grass cutting projects, you can do that. So that's the scheduling side of things with projects. One of the other nice features with Alloy is once your project is underway, you can actually build layers that will allow for you to track progress. So actually, on top of that, I've actually set up this device so that it can, I've set up the system so that it can track mobile devices, the actual apps that the operatives are using. So every time the device syncs with the cloud system, you'll get an updated XY coordinate fix of the operative and where they're up to. But we've also got a layer presented here. This is a LAMS route progress layer showing a LAMS inspection as part of a cleansing program. And you can see the areas that have been completed in green, areas in progress, and of course the proposed sections that haven't actually been assessed yet. And what's really nice with Alloy as well is you know, you can have lots of these layers set up for lots of different teams. You've got the live stats and the dashboard cards. You know, with all this information, you can keep an eye on progress. If a particular team is performing better than others, and another team is lagging a little bit for whatever reason, it's very easy using the poly selector tool or just individually selecting tasks to reassign them to another team to ensure that you're you know, delivering the service as efficiently as possible. So, you know, in this case, I just select edit and I can change the team. So give it from field team to field team B. Change the team member if need be, and then save that, and it updates. And the next time devices sync, that job will get sucked from one team and passed to another team. So there's one more planned activity that I want to show you, and I'm going to switch projects to do this. So let's go to our waste demo. Okay, and you know, in much the same way that we've looked at the other projects, the grass cutting project, the LAMS inspection project, we can produce domestic waste collection rounds as well. So access them from exactly the same location. Projects, we'll go for this one, Monday week 1 recycling. And within the map now, we can see the extent to which you know, these rounds, this particular round covers. We've got 20 tasks, so 20 locations to visit to collect refuse from bins, in this case recycling. And again, it's because of the parent-child relationships and the multi-layered parent-child relationships that we can build in Alloy that, you know, we can build rounds for waste collection, but we can also build grass cutting projects, LAMS inspection projects, arboreal inspections, you know, tree health surveys, and so on and so forth. It gives us huge flexibility. So let's have a quick look at how we get to the creation of a round. We zoom in. You can see we've got the National Land and Property Gazetteer presented in the map here. I can select this property here, see the address information. I can also view the bins that are held against this property. So we've got a domestic refuse and a domestic recycling. I can select the recycling bin. And I don't know if you noticed that there, but the bin isn't actually located at the same location as the property. It's around the side. Within Alloy, because everything is a separate asset that can have different geometries, and they can all be related, you can actually put the bin in the correct location rather than using the property location, meaning that bin crews actually know where to go to, rather than just arriving at the property or having to use learned sort of knowledge on the job. And this reflects reality quite a lot of the time. Bins can be sort of around the side of houses, at the back of houses, they can be in courtyards and so on. So having this facility is really useful. So we've gone from the property to a child, which is the bin, and then we can just go parents, and you can see actually from the bin that obviously the property is the parent, but also we've got what's called a recycling waste group. And if I select that, you'll see that there are actually 94 bins kind of collected together within this particular waste group. So what a waste group is, it's just a package of work. This is one of many waste groups that then combine together to create the round that we just looked at. And so the idea is that a waste collection crew will arrive at this waste group, and then they'll sort of start work. And if there are no issues, they don't record anything, they just close the waste group at the end of the set of tasks when they've been carried out. If there are issues, they, by exception, record those issues. And the beauty of these waste groups as well is that, they're not restricted to defining a street. You can define them as you wish. It could be one side of the street that's a waste group. It could be a courtyard that's a waste group. You've got the flexibility to design all this stuff within the system, again, so that you can deliver your services and manage your assets as efficiently as possible. Give you a view of Alloy Mobile and how that can help as well. I think Steve mentioned it before, but it works both online and offline. It's an app that can be downloaded from the App Store and the Play Store, so it works on Apple and Android devices. Look and feel is very similar to the cloud system. If I want to navigate, I can sort of pinch, zoom, I can swipe, pan around. In the top right-hand corner, you've got a sync icon there. In the bottom left, you've got a locate me button. Using the GPS on the device, you've got this little plus in the bottom right, and you can use that to add assets in. So if people are out and about and they notice that an asset's missing, they can add that in to improve your inventory information. And then if I press this hamburger icon, the sort of 3 horizontal bars in the top left, this gives me access to all of the activities that have been pushed out to me. So I've got an open jobs inbox. I've got no inspections on this for this user, 1 project and 4 waste rounds. So quite an eclectic mix of work to carry out. What I'll do first is I'll nip into projects, and my project is a missed bins project. So for whatever reason, we've not collected waste from a particular bin, someone's reported it, and actually, we're at fault, so we're going to go back and do that. You can see the locations are presented in the map. They're also presented in this list here. I can sort information by various different categories: status, target date, distance to me, and so on. I can also filter that information by a lot of different categories as well. So, the status of it, is it my task or is it just my team's task? So you can sort of filter and sort your tasks to your heart's content, and then you can either select the tasks in the map or from the list. So once you sort of selected one of the tasks, you get centered on it, and then you've got this bar at the bottom. You'll notice you've got a sat nav button in the top right, so if you want to get to it, you can tap that sat nav button. If I swipe upwards, I now get all the details of the job. And that interaction that you just saw is the same interaction whether I'm looking at a defect, an asset, an inspection, or a job. So again, we're trying to use as much common functionality across different areas of the system as possible, meaning that once you've learned how to use Alloy Mobile for one set of tasks, it's very easy to use it for another set of tasks. And that's the same principle with the cloud system that we've been looking at as well. So we're looking at the device now. You can see the details presented at the top, what needs to be done, what was the issue. Again, you've got a sort of location presented in a card below that, and this sat nav icon here that I can tap takes us into Google Maps, and then I can just work through Google Maps to get directions, and then tap the start button there to actually start navigating to the job. There we go. So you've got that navigation capability, and then the great thing about Google Maps as well is that it's using live traffic information. So, you know, it's going to get your teams to the next task in the most optimized way. And then, yeah, let's say we've arrived. So we're gonna fill out the details quickly. You can define all the attribution using Designer again that you can see here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the team member. So it's me. I'm going to say I've started the work now. Obviously, go and empty the bin, and then we'll set the status to completed. That auto populates a completion time that you can see just here at the bottom, and then I'll save that. And the work is done. And then we can move on to the next task. So you can see the icons now changed to a tick in the map. If before we do that, or as part of the process, you've got this little plus button in the right here, and that allows you to, you know, if you've got the right permissions, create new jobs, defects, inspections related to this particular task, add attachments or add work items. So if I go add attachment, I can add images from my camera, from my gallery, or files that I might want to attach to this job. I'll go camera, and there's my screen. Create a crazy image for you. Something from Inception.
I like it. Your house doesn't start bending over on itself.
It already has. And you can create as many of these images as you want and tag them to the task, the inspection, the defect, the job, the asset. You know, it's all the same functionality regardless of what you're looking at. So that is an example of how we can sort of carry out a job with the mobile device. I'm now going to knit to rounds. So I'm going to turn my device horizontal to create the in-cab view. And then I've got my list of rounds sort of presented here. So I can select one of those. There we go. And again, as with the sort of job that we've just looked at, I've got the same options. It's obviously a slightly different thing we're doing, but I can sort by status, raise date, target date, and so on. I can filter. I've got a list here. And I've also got all those waste collection tasks presented in the map as well. So if I select one of those, here we are. We've now got all of the waste collections on Gale Street, which is the street we looked at before. And actually, if I zoom in, this is the bin. Ooh, this is the bin that wasn't at the property. So, you know, just sort of showing you that the data in the cloud system is reflected on the mobile device. And the idea is you just get to the start of the street, you select it, and then you just drive the street doing your work. And if you get to the end of the street and nothing's happened, you press complete task and it's done. And you know, everything's done. It's that simple. As you're driving along, you might notice some different icons. We've got a purple icon with a handshake. That is an assisted collection that we've defined. So you can see that there's some extra help that we're going to have to give at that particular location. Perhaps one of these locations, and you can either select them from the map or from the list, one of these hasn't put their bin out. We can just tap it, tap bin not out. We've got the camera icon in the bottom left, so we can take a photo again. We can add notes, tap OK, and it changes color to red in the map and also in the list. Moving on, let's say there's one more. Tap the bin icon again. Let's say it's a bin swallowed this time. Tap OK. And again, we've got another event that we've recorded. What's great about this is as soon as the device syncs with the cloud system, you could have something like a workflow sat there listening for this bin swallowed event. And then that workflow creates a job to go and replace that bin. And potentially, you know, if everyone's out at work, sort of looking forward to sort of non-pandemic times when maybe people are back at the office more, you know, the new bin might arrive before they've actually even realized their old one was gone. The only thing they might notice is it looks a bit shinier and it's not got, you know, the number printed on it anymore or something. But yeah, you know, there's a lot of flexibility in defining your business processes with the system, and the mobile device is really simple and clear to sort of follow for operatives who, let's face it, you know, have a day job to do. This should help them as much as possible. That it shouldn't in any way hinder them, but also it needs to give you guys all the relevant information to help you understand how your service is performing. So once we've done the street, we just tap complete street and we get a load of ticks, and then we can move on to the next street, or waste group, I should say. I shouldn't use the term street because it doesn't have to be a street. So that's a really quick look at the mobile device. If I go back to Alloy now, I just want to finish on another couple of aspects of the system that can really help with your service. I'm just going to switch back to the other project that we were looking at to start with. So we've got a full budgeting capability with Alloy. So you can create budgets within the system, budget periods. You can align those with the budgets that you have in your general ledger. We can even integrate with Alloy with a finance system. And you can link work items that are costed, via scheduler rates to budgets as well. So if we look at one of these budgets here, we can open a kind of budget dashboard view. It shows the date range, and then those jobs sort of broken down by the different status categories. And then you can go into them and actually look at the list views in more detail if you like. You can look at previous financial years and so on and what was spent. So we've got budgeting capability in the system. In terms of reporting, we don't like to sort of really talk just about reporting with Alloy. We prefer to refer to business intelligence. You've already seen lots of ways that we can get a real-time understanding of what's happening on our network, whether that be through those dynamic layers that can update as things change, or dashboard cards or inbox views that update as things change. But on top of that, we do also bring a report writer. So it comes to the reports card, you can create custom reports to ensure that you can get the business intelligence in a snapshot out at a certain frequency that you need presented in a certain way. And here's a list of report types that we've got. And also we can integrate with Microsoft Power BI. So if you want to create one of those nice dashboard views, log in every morning, let's see the state of play, you can do that. And these can be as comprehensive or as simple as you like. Here's a reasonably comprehensive one looking at jobs, and it's all interactive. So if I take this slider here and change the job creation date range, you can see it's kind of updated all the jobs against each team. It's reduced the numbers. I can then maybe select a particular status I care about. So I want to look at all the ones that were issued to contractor, and then it updates the information again, filtering it down and then dynamically updating everything else in the view. So we can provide lots and lots of different ways of interacting with and understanding your information. That kind of a multi-tiered business intelligence function that's provided through Alloy. Final thing I wanted to talk about is Internet of Things. So I kind of mentioned briefly in passing, fleetingly, about the tree lean sensor that we had against the tree that we looked at earlier. Alloy it's a modern system. It's been built to work in the modern world that we now live in, the world that is moving into the Internet of Things, to smart cities. It's ready to work in that world now. We've got an example of a streetlight here with a nitrogen dioxide sensor on it. We've got noise sensors. We've got meteorological information. And you could even have live feeds coming in. You can send commands to sensors to do things, or controls, turn the light on, turn it off, open the communication cabinet, close the communication cabinet. We want to work in this world because it's the future. Sensors bring so much opportunity, whether that's giving us more information real time about events that are occurring on our network, allowing us to respond to them more effectively, or whether it's about actually controlling things out on site using a system like Alloy. So just to summarize what I've shown you, we've looked at how we can manage a range of assets within the system. We've looked at visualizing and interacting with these. We've looked at the system flexibility to align it with your organization's way of working. We've looked at the flexibility and ease to manage reactive and planned maintenance activities. We've looked at the mobile app, which is intuitive. It matches the cloud system's flexibility as well. So whatever you're configuring in the cloud is reflected in the mobile device. And, just touching at the end just now, Alloy is a modern system built for a modern world, a world of IoT and smart cities. So that's all from me. Thanks so much for the opportunity to present Alloy to you. I hope you found it interesting. And if you have any questions, myself or Steve will be happy to answer them.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Alex. So I'm just going to quickly take back control. If you'll let me do that. Get rid of that. There we go. So we have got some questions. I'm just going to quickly, I know we're coming up to the hour, so let me just quickly finish off with a little bit Joe was going to do with me. So Joe, I'm just going to unmute you. Perfect. So thanks for that, Alex. So we were just going to quickly run through how Joe, in fact, how Yotta and Panasonic have worked together on waste management in particular. And it was actually Joe who was working on it on a couple of customers recently. So we'll just quickly go over it. And Joe, if you want to jump in, just feel free to jump in because I want to make sure I get to the questions. But essentially, we can, along with Yotta, we can help manage everything around installing a device into your fleet. So, we'll send out a team, we'll do an assessment of your fleet. So whether you have different vehicles, whether they're all different or the same, we can assess them. Make sure you get the right device. So whether that's Windows or Android, the right positioning, any kits are needed to install it, and then the process for actually installing that. With a range of docks, so that's actually the part that fixes the device, the tablet, into the cab, and they're all Myra crash tested as well, so you don't have to worry about any health and safety considerations there. And then what we do is we bundle that all together with all the bits and bobs you need, so the dock, the device, power cables, because you need to connect that in as well, and any sort of custom bracketry you might need. And then, I've got something, can't even see my screen. There we go. And then, of course, the full installation. So we can arrange to come in and install that for you whenever suits you best. So presumably when you don't need to go out in the morning, do a collection. So in the evening, things like that, over a weekend, perhaps, whenever your downtime is, we can do the installs then. And as I mentioned, the docks are all Myra tested, so they're not going to shake and come flying out if there is a crash or something like that. But also everything follows in-cab health and safety guidelines, so ensuring the driver has full visibility and he's not going to get distracted. And then, of course, the excellent partnership that Joe has with Yotta. So, we've done a couple of these projects now, so you know that if there is anything that comes up, any problems, they're going to be easily fixed because we have this good relationship to be able to fix things together. And you don't have that issue where often one company blames another. We'll just work together to get it done. So that's really quick. Joe, was there anything I missed you wanted to raise quickly?
No.
Or was that
those points that are on the screen there are the main points really outside of the software that we can see from that demo there, and how it can make the workforces more efficient and how it can be very beneficial to different businesses. This is the next steps from there really, to then look at the vehicles. We'll put proposals together with diagrams and images and put forward not only the most sort of health and safety conscious recommendation, but it will also be with the users' input as well, to make sure that we're sort of meeting their needs as well, and keeping those guys happy, because they're the ones that will be using it every day. So yeah, these points on the screen now are perfect really. They're the natural progression from once the software side is sorted, we can then take care of everything else.
after the Q&A bit, so we do some questions. Just get them up. I think some of them might have been covered as you went through. First one was how are defects reported? I'm pretty sure you covered that.
Yeah. From a variety of sources, you can manually input them into the system. So it could be call center adding them in, but it could come in via an integration with a CRM, mobile app. Could come in from sensors, could come in from web forms, and we have a number of partners as well that we can sort of provide a global offering, to bring sort of CRM capability, mobile app capability for report service requests.
Perfect. And similarly to this one, how do you collect the data points? So I think that was around, so the bins, I think, for example, how do you plot them? Can they be done in the field? Yeah.
There's a number of different ways. Assets can be added via the mobile device. I think I alluded to that, but I know I covered so much ground there. You've got that little plus button, so you can add assets in. It could be a file that you upload as well, so you can actually bulk upload data sets to the system as well, or you can plot it in the cloud system as well. There's lots of different ways to get your data into the system.
Perfect. What's the payment structure for Yotta?
Probably I'll defer to Steve on that one.
Am I unmuted? There we go. Yeah, fairly simple. So it's obviously you've seen Alloy as a SaaS-based product. So principal sort of 3 elements. So based on number of users, office users, number of mobile or in-cab users. There's services needed to get up and running with Alloy as well. And then looking at the hardware side of things, that'd be the 4th element. So partnering with Panasonic on the hardware side as well. So yeah, can talk details if anyone wants to go into something more detail, but we're aiming to try and make it as simple as possible and as clear as possible for customers and prospective customers to buy Alloy.
Perfect, cool. And you cover this as well, but you can set up projects to repeat automatically, can't you? So you can set them up to be, in a year, next 1 year time, 2 year time. So that's all good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Is there a calendar view to be able to see jobs planned for the week or month?
Yes. Oh, I forgot to show you that. Yeah, we've got a task assigner. Well, that was a bit of a that wasn't the plan. So you've got a kind of Gantt view. I can describe it very easily. You've got unassigned tasks on the left-hand side. Along the bottom, you've got each team sort of listed on top of one another with a time sequence sort of projecting out of them, and you can see all the jobs that they've got basically within that time sequence, and you can change the scale, so you can be looking at it on a daily basis, an hourly basis, a weekly basis. And then if you select any unassigned tasks or tasks that are assigned to a particular team, it'll actually center on that task within the map as well and show you all the information, all the detail on the right-hand side. So it's this really interactive kind of Gantt viewer that we've got for task assignment.
Perfect. And can bin crews move the location of the bin? So I think if it's not where it's plotted, can they move that themselves?
Oh, pass. I'll have to get back to you on that one, unless you know, Steve, off the top of your head. But they could put in. I know for sure you could put in an exception against the bin that would say it needs to be moved to X and write a description, something like that.
Okay.
I don't know. I'll have to get back. I'll come back with an answer on that.
Okay, perfect. And that was it, I think. So if anyone's got any last minute questions, if you just chuck them in the chat, we will be more than happy to answer them. Apart from that, that was it. So just a reminder about the demo. So the link's in the chat. Just need a few details so they can get back to you and arrange that for you. There was one last question. Do you offer training on the software?
Oh yes, absolutely. Part of an implementation, there absolutely has to be training. I mean, the analogy I always use is, the car, the automobile, is one of the most successful things ever created. But if I handed you one and you never had any training in how to use it, you'd probably think it was a load of rubbish, right? you need training, obviously, and there are a wide range of training packages that we can deliver depending on the type of system you want. So if you want to go for an enterprise system and maybe have a core sort of central IT team that manage that, and maybe they can then learn the absolute intricacies of the system and deploy it out to new service areas themselves, we can do that. Or if you want to do individual service areas and it's more a kind of functional training, we can deliver that as well.
Perfect. Well, that's it then. There's no more questions. So thank you very much for joining us. I'm just popping another link in the chat. Oh, that's not the right one. I'll pop it in. But it was just a reminder that we've got other webinars coming up. We're doing them sort of once a week at the moment. So if you check out the Tough Talks landing page, I'll just get it. You can register for any of those other ones as well we've got coming up. But please feel free to drop me an email if you have questions or want to get in contact with Yotta, not via the website. So I'll pop my email address in the chat. So if you want to chat to us or Yotta, just let me know. I can make sure we can get to the right person. So one final check, any questions? No, we're all good. Cool. So thank you guys. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Joe. Thank you everyone for joining us.
No worries.
We see you on the next one. Thanks everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.